And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another BPTV Sunday Night Live here for Bulletproof. So, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. I hope you've had a good week of Jiu Jitsu. And really, what we're looking at is how you can improve Jiu Jitsu by training other grappling disciplines. Now, some people don't agree with this. Some people are like, oh, if you want to get better at Jiu Jitsu, just train Jiu Jitsu. And I am actually, I was one of those people because my first coach, that's all he believes. He's like, no, jujitsu is its own art and you just need to focus on that. There's actually a huge problem with this. And this is just ignorance of grappling as a whole. And that's why I wanted to discuss this with you guys tonight. And if you have any questions or you have anything else you want to say on this topic, feel free to put it in the live chat. It's always good to get a bit of discussion going. And really, the most important thing is that we're all getting better. And I, full disclosure, train judo and have trained wrestling a fair bit. And for some of you out there who've come from a different background, like say you've done wrestling or you've done judo and you've come to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you will realize how much crossover it has. And it seems obvious, but we're going to drill down into exactly how we can utilize the other grappling disciplines for us to get better at BJJ and just be a better, well-rounded grappler. So also, if you have any questions related to the Bulletproof for BJJ program, anything that you've encountered, just anything related to training for Jiu-Jitsu, please just put the question in the comments and I will get to them before the end of today's session. So first things first, why learning stand-up grappling will actually help your guard. Now, this sounds like a strange concept because they are diametrically opposed, but you will actually be crazily surprised at how many common crossovers they have in terms of principles. And I'm going to talk about that. Yes, 100% I would. I think wrestling is, it depends on if you train gi or no gi, but I think Lachlan Giles and I had a discussion. So I recorded a podcast with Lachlan only 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about, and we talked about this years ago between Lockie and myself, that wrestling actually has more crossover to jiu-jitsu than judo, because judo's kind of become a little bit one-dimensional of recent years. And even judokas will speak to that and say, yeah, man, the art I started 20 years ago is not what it is today. And we're going to talk about that as well. The judo is so limited now, whereas jiu-jitsu is so diverse. I would most definitely say, yes, please do. Yes, do your wrestling. 100%. Look, I think people really don't understand how technical and how challenging wrestling is, because we think, oh, wrestlers, they're kind of meatheads, they're tough, they're just hard charging. But there's so many small details within wrestling that really can really improve your BJJ game. We will speak on that. Now, why grip fighting? This is topic number 2. Why grip fighting in judo is important for BJJ. There are principles there, and judokas are so, like, high-level judokas will not let you get a grip. They'll fight so hard to not let you get a grip. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, we're just like, take a grip, and we just kind of work around it. And there's a really important lesson to be learned there, and I've learned it the hard way. So let me break it down for you, so you don't have to learn the hard way, and you can just learn that lesson straight up. But I would definitely encourage you to be doing judo as well as wrestling at least 1 day a week. Wrestling equals more recovery? No, not at all. Wrestling is going to wreck you. Wrestling is probably the most intense. I'm going to say wrestling is most intense. Judo second most intense, and then jiu-jitsu is kind of third on the intensity scale of grappling. They're all intense, right? Like, you've got to look at it this way, guys. Like, jiu-jitsu is the marathon of grappling. Judo is the 100-meter sprint. And then wrestling is like the 800 meters, 1,500 meters, like middle distance, gross, go as hard as you can till you die type. So that's just from an energetic standpoint of view. What I'd say is I think definitely, even if you feel a bit uncomfortable, you're like, oh, I might get hurt. I don't want to do it. If you warm up correctly, you're not going to get like a serious injury unless you do wrestling full time or you do judo full time. Then sure, you might get some injuries, but doing one session a week is actually not likely to hurt you any more than a jiu-jitsu session. Just so you know. Yeah, that's right. There is no let's go light. It's I take you down, you take me down, let's go. Impose your will, right? This is the common refrain within wrestling. And yeah, definitely. And I look, I think just for you, Mr. Martinez, in terms of standing up, like doing stand up, when you compete in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, you start standing. In a physical confrontation, most of the time, it starts standing. It's really important for you to learn to engage with somebody from standing because this is actually how grappling conflicts always started. The reason why most jiu-jitsu coaches will start from the ground is because it minimizes injuries. Now, this is something else that you guys should know, and it's just a fairly, it's not a well-known stat, but most coaches will know it. It's not that injuries occur to the takedown, injuries occur to the takedown. It's the person who doesn't know how to break fall, the person who posts their arm out when both body weights are on it and their elbow explodes. Like if you can minimize injuries, you're much more likely to have more people coming to your class, right? So it's also so that people don't get overwhelmed. If you're trying to teach people one skill, which might be a submission or a sweep or a position, and you layer in the complexity of stand-up grappling, it's too much. So what I'd say is this. I definitely recommend from a competition point of view that if you're a competitor, you intend to compete in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but you also intend to compete in other fields of grappling, it's always got to be from standing. Even not grappling, even if people go, oh yeah, I want to do MMA, and then all their jiu-jitsu is off their back. It's like, no, you've got to stand on the feet. This is an important skill. And we will talk about that. So grappling discipline this is topic number 3 that highlights your blind spots. And this is where we're going to talk about stand-up fighting, combat in general. And then topic number 4 is understanding grappling as a whole and getting smarter for BJJ. And this is kind of like how we sum it all up, guys, as to how we can get the most out of training other disciplines of grappling so that our jiu-jitsu actually improves. So I'm going to go pretty deep right there. So thank you very much for your early questions, guys. I appreciate it. What I'd say is this, just very quickly. If you train wrestling, you're never going to have a problem with gas tank. Like the anaerobic threshold, which is what wrestling really trains, which is pushing you to work as hard as you can when you're at your absolute upper limit. That's what wrestling's good for. Judo, on the other hand, is much better for decisiveness. Like judo is the KO punch of grappling. It's so fast. If you can just bit of a flurry, bit of a foot sweep, boom, throw someone, they're gone. I was actually saying this the other day that I actually find judo comps fun because you don't grapple that hard. Like you either throw somebody or you get thrown. It's rare that you're out there having a war. Like I would say that's the exception. Really, you're in there, it's an intense hot minute and you throw somebody. I mean, if you have a war, you have a war, but you should be prepared for that. I have found with my comp experience, I've been in 4 judo competitions and 3 of them I won. That basically, guys, you are going to find that it's quick. Jiu-jitsu is a grind. Jiu-jitsu is such a long, hard grind. But that's also why we're not quite as intense as our kind of faster grappling cousins because we know we have to last. So that's why we tend to play like, efficiency and play a bit slower, a bit more control because we don't want to burn all our chips, right? The truth is you just need to get a lot fitter and actually being decisive and throwing someone and then submitting them can be like much more energy efficient. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit off topic. Guys, let's talk about why understanding the stand-up grappling is really good for your guard. So this was explained to me many years ago by Dan Cherubin. Shout out Dan Cherubin. I've mentioned him a couple of times here on the YouTube lives. DC Jiu-Jitsu down in South Geelong. He's possibly one of the smartest guys in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's just thought about it way more than a lot of us have. Like on an obsession level, I can't explain. I think definitely a guy like Lachlan Giles, he has that obsession. If you look at some of the great coaches like Danaher, I'm not saying he's a good guy, but he's obsessed. He understands the game on a level that most people do not understand. And now, look, Dan Cherubin is a lovely guy, but he's also almost like a savant. He thinks about jiu-jitsu from a completely different angle. This is what he said to me. And I'll say to you guys, I've said this to my students before a couple of times. It's a bit of a mic drop, mind blown type idea. He said to me, passing the guard is like sweeping from the bottom. So when you're playing guard and you sweep somebody, you organize your control so they fall. He said passing is just guarding from the top, because he thinks about jiu-jitsu in this kind of 360-degree angle. And he's like, when you pass, you just organize the person so you can move around them, which is kind of like a sweep. And so when he put that idea in my mind, like inception, it made me go, wow, okay. And he was like, look, there will always be new forms of passing as much as there are new guards, because everybody was talking about berimbolo and how inversions are so tricky and lapel guard. And he's like, man, if it can be that creative from the bottom, it can be that creative from the top. You just have to think about it differently. So understand this, if we think about the gripping sequences in judo and we think about the controls in wrestling in terms of snapping, like ankle picking, foot tripping, all of these things, they apply as soon as someone's on their back. You are still wrestling. You're still kind of doing judo to a lesser extent, even though the person's on their butt. Newaza, which is like the groundwork in judo, that's still there. There are principles that are taught in those individual arts which actually help you become better at passing. Now, it's each side of the coin, and this is what was taught to me by Dan. Once you know what makes something, you also understand what breaks it, right? So if you know a particular pants grip is very good for passing the guard, if you're the person in that guard, you now know, like you have the knowledge that if I let that person get that pants grip, I'm probably going to get passed. So I've got to strip that grip as fast as I can. I can't let them control my leg. If you don't understand both sides of the coin, you really do not thoroughly understand the position. So that's the key insight here. The reason why understanding the top game, the takedowns, the wrestling, the reason why knowing that well, because those positions are designed and those arts are designed to break people down from standing to the ground and control them there. Whether they turn to their back, which is like more common in judo, or they turn more belly down and try and continue to fight, which is more common in wrestling, you need to know how to take the next step. Now, let's flip this from the other angle. You're a person playing guard. Even if you've been taken down, even if you've pulled guard, whatever the scenario is, you need to know what your partner is trying to do to you, as well as trying to implement your strategy so that you can stop them from being successful to have your own level of success. If you're not aware a particular grip or a particular like smash is really compromising your ability to keep guard and attack from there or sweep, then you have a huge blind spot. You've got like a bazooka-sized hole right through your guard. So that's the thing, guys. You need to understand really how to break guards down so that when you play guard, you know what your opponent is trying to do to weaken your position. This is key. If you do not spend time doing stand-up work, you're not going to understand it. So, two key things to take away from this particular point. One, gripping sequences in judo are most important, and that's what we're going to lead to next. But this is true when passing the guard, right? Anything that you can perform for a takedown, like from a throw in judo, can lead to an advantageous position on the ground. So you need to recognize that if you're someone who intends to pull guard, or you come out, you slap hands, and someone like strikes up a bit of a judo stance, you're like, right, I know what this guy's going to do. You need to know how to pull guard and execute effectively against somebody who's going to work that game on you. If you don't, you are fujita. And in Brazilian, fujita means fucked. Also, wrestling. Wrestling is so, position and footwork is so important. And this is something that we don't really pay attention to in jiu-jitsu, that the way you put your feet, the way you position your head, where your shoulder is, where your hip is so important for controlling an opponent. Now, if you've ever had to try and do no-gi against somebody who's got really good wrestling training, shout out to my friend Jeremy Martinez, because people just go, oh, Jeremy, he's just a white belt guy. But people don't know this guy's wrestled. He'll double leg you in a heartbeat. That's the thing. You're going to get the shock of your freaking life because these guys will outposition you. They'll keep you on your ass. Like, it's almost impossible for you to regain control once they've brought you to the ground. And that's the thing. If you do not recognize this early as the guard player, you are Fujita. You can use that. I'm just going to put it here. It's slang. I think it's actually Japanese, but anyway, that's from Sao Paulo. You guys can use that at will. All right. Number 2, keep chiming in with the questions and the answers, my friends. I mean, look, the more questions you give me, the more content I can kind of give you back. And I'm going to have a sip of tea, my friends. All right. Why grip fighting in judo is important for jiu-jitsu. Now, oftentimes, this is a thing I notice. People will let you take a grip in jiu-jitsu, and then they'll move around until it doesn't suit them, and then they'll try and break it. Don't do this. You're creating a problem for yourself. It's so much double handling. Literally. Feeling very Italian today. No, that's anyway, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Essentially, if you are letting someone take a grip when you train gi, they are controlling you. In judo, the stand-up grip fight is so furious. It's so full on. Guys will even tear gis. Like, they're taking a grip so fiercely. Guys are just busting your hand off. Your fingers get so sore and gnarled because guys will not let you. When you train judo, guys, and I'm not particularly good at judo. I've trained judo about 2.5 years. I'm back on the judo bandwagon. I'm going to be back at judo at least 2 days a week now. I really want to get that judo black belt. Oh yeah, triple black belt. Man, they're so rough. It's rough. You're like, oh, I just want to hold you. No. It's so rough. They'll shove the shit out of you. You can't take your grip. It's really intense. And the reason why is as soon as you get good grips in judo, guys throw. Like, they get their grips. They don't really stuff around. They set you up and then boom, they are throwing you. And the thing is, if you haven't experienced this, if you don't know what this is like, it's a shock. But once you've experienced it, you're like, wow, these grips are important. Now, let's relate this to passing guard or getting, whether you're passing the guard or you're someone playing guard. If someone is advanced at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you let them get a grip that they want, they are going to wreck you. Like, if you let me get that underhook, I'm going to make your life hell. In the same way, you let me get that pants grip, I'm probably not going to let go until I've passed guard or I've leg locked you or I've just smashed you into the mat. Because certain grips give certain controls which give advantage. If you don't pay attention to this, if you try and escape the grip 2 or 3 moves later, it's already checkmate, right? So this hyper awareness of people taking grips, which is I haven't seen it anywhere else but judo. Like in wrestling, because there's not like material to hold on to, people pummel. It's like a little bit more slippery. You would know from no-gi, it's a bit more fluid. But you know, when you get someone who's really good at gi, or, you know, you might have trained with someone who's done rock climbing before, right? Someone who's done bouldering, you let him get a grip. You can't break it. You're like, usually I just break the guy's grips. I can't break this guy's grips. And then it's game over. So here's the thing. If you haven't experienced the intensity with which judo players will break grips, you don't understand how important particular grips are. So here's my advice. Go and do some judo training, just maybe 1 day a week. Try and go for, a couple of sessions, like go for a month, 2 months, and watch the high level, watch the brown belts and the black belts and see how intense they are about their grip fighting. And then think about how important that is when it comes to jiu-jitsu. If you don't really understand the importance of certain grips, ask your coach, or you can feel free to ask me, because I will tell you, I can make some videos about important grips when passing or guarding and why they are important. So hit me up, guys. Let me hit these questions. Good video of wrestling versus jiu-jitsu matches. Yeah, okay. Cool. Yeah, okay. So let's understand wrestling. I'm gonna switch this over to our next point. So thanks for bringing that up, Adrian. I want to quickly say, big middle fingers to flow grappling. I don't like flow grappling. I think they're pimps. I don't rate them. Yeah, I'll say that. But if you can find good footage of anybody grappling, here's the thing: wrestlers train as athletes. No. Look, don't look like BJJ stuff from BJJ fanatics. No, I don't think so. I honestly, if you can get it from anywhere, if you can get it from YouTube, please do that. Like wherever you get your information, get it. Like that's all I'd say. Don't get caught up in brand names. Do I think there are superior judo grips that be utilized in BJJ? Yeah. I saw your use of tenacious there. Shout out. Thank you, Mr. Martinez. I think there are ways to use grips that judo players use them that we don't. So there's that. But it's more that they will not let you control them. They are so fervent in how hard they resist that you go, oh, but in jiu-jitsu, we kind of sometimes let people do that. But actually, when you train with super high level competitors, they won't let you take their lapel or they won't let you take their sleeve, and they'll try and break your fingers to break those grips. So it's more just knowing that it's actually important for you to really defend hard and not let someone control you. So, Adrian, relating this point to wrestlers doing well against BJJ guys and BJJ guys sucking against wrestlers, this is with grappling discipline that highlights your blind spots. Wrestlers train to be gymnasts, basically. Like if you did wrestling in Russia or Cuba or wherever else, those guys are doing backflips, they're doing cartwheels, they're doing sprints, they're doing weights, they're doing calisthenics, they're doing everything to be absolute machines. They're running up stairs with their partner on their shoulders. Like the regime for wrestling is insane, right? They're like the SAS of grappling. If like us BJJ guys, even the highest level BJJ guys, unless they are the champion, that the thing is wrestlers don't consider submissions. So they're always sticking their neck out and sticking their arm out. So of course they're vulnerable. So where BJJ trumps wrestling is we're tight all the time. We don't want to get exposed. We're super aware that somebody is going to try and submit us. Wrestlers don't have that awareness. They are exposed. But because they are so fit and so strong, they can overwhelm a BJJ player really fast. Like just boom, shoot, boom, boom, boom. And then before you know it, they've got your back and they're just ripping your head off, right? The biggest blind spot for most BJJ practitioners is they don't train to be athletes. They're like, I just like doing jiu-jitsu, I just want to roll. I don't like that weight stuff, like, and it's like, well, actually, what you don't know is that being stronger and fitter is to your advantage, because so many people out there go, oh, I'm not that gym bro. I don't go to the gym. Nah. And then they complain about someone being stronger. Oh, man, that guy just uses strength. It's not fair. Oh, that guy just uses fitness against me. It's not fair. It's like, well, it's not about fair. Jiu-jitsu is not about fair. Grappling's not about fair. It's about be prepared, show the fuck up, and bang. Now, if you cannot accept that, you're going to be that guy whinging and complaining about someone being better than you over a variable you can control. So I understand if you work full time, you have a family, you have kids, you're just trying to fit your jiu-jitsu in, you're like, man, I'm just trying to get to training 3 times a week. I understand that you're like, man, how am I going to fit in a judo session and now a wrestling session, blah, blah. But this is like true of a lot of gyms. If you train at an MMA gym, there's every chance they have a wrestling coach, or there will be a night or a session on the timetable where there's wrestling. Swap out one of your jiu-jitsu sessions and go to wrestling and just suck. Just go there and suck. Just go once a week, do another discipline of grappling, whether it's wrestling or judo, And then in, I would say 2 months, feel how much better you get at jiu-jitsu. Now, this sounds strange, but trust me, try it. Excuse me. So here's the deal. If you actually want to get better at this thing that we call grappling, which is the overarching term for all this stuff that we do, you've got to just look back historically. Jiu-jitsu and judo were the same thing at one stage. It's just that because of political reasons and what was going on in the society in Japan, they separated it. They outlawed jiu-jitsu and they said, judo is special. Judo is holy. Yes, you can train judo, but you can't do your dirty jiu-jitsu. And for years, it was kind of suppressed, right? The reason that we have the culture we have is because so many people emigrated from Japan to Brazil. And then there was the kind of cross mix of cultures there that the kind of fighting culture of Brazil got exposed to Japanese jiu-jitsu and then the birth of Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I'm not going to go real heavy into the histories of it because you guys can find that out for yourselves and I can point you in the right direction around that. But honestly, if you're not training wrestling or you're not training judo 1 day a week, your jiu-jitsu will not develop as quickly. And I'm here to try and help you guys get better faster. So let's say that. Now, last but not least, understanding grappling as a whole to get smarter at BJJ. So this is how I would like to sum it up for you guys. If you predominantly train in the gi, you need to train some judo because invariably you're going to do stand-up. Now, the cool thing about jiu-jitsu is we can wrestle as well as throw, which is awesome. But gripping in the gi and gripping with judo is so important. So you need to actually learn a different approach, like a different set of eyes on why certain grips work and why other grips may not in certain situations. So that when you are standing, you don't just try and grip like you're gripping in jiu-jitsu. That's not going to, like, gripping for BJJ is different to gripping for judo. And when you have somebody who's very experienced, like a black belt who's trained judo, 20 years, they will be able to break down for you exactly why. And that is super powerful for you as somebody who will do some stand-up. You're going to have a huge advantage over a bunch of other people who didn't make that little bit of extra effort. Now, if you train predominantly no-gi, you got to wrestle. You're probably already doing a bit of wrestling, but you're just doing a shit job of it, right? No-gi now is not what it used to be. No-gi back in 2007, 2008 was just kind of jiu-jitsu without the gi, right? Sem kimono. That's what they say. No kimono. That's how they say it in Brazil, sem kimono. But that's not what the game is now. No-gi is now wrestling and submissions. Submission wrestling is essentially the no-gi game of today because of leg locks, because of dynamic passing, which is really so elevated compared to what it used to be, and because of the ever-increasing output of jiu-jitsu technique with guards and top game. If you really want to be great at no-gi jiu-jitsu, you have to wrestle. If you don't have that power, that explosiveness, and also that dogged determination, tenaciousness to just keep attacking, if you gas, you're gone. The great saying is, fatigue makes cowards of us all. And this is entirely true. Once I get tired, my technique goes to crap. Trust me, if you're rolling with me and I'm tired, you're going to get squashed because I'm just going to lie on you. Just squash, just use gravity. And your technique goes away because you haven't got the energy to move and twist and bend in the same way. And you'll know the difference, right? You've got to hate that cardio machine, that person who just, is nonstop cardio bunny, right? And it's not like they're necessarily good at jiu-jitsu. They just wear you down. And then once you're gassed, your technique drops and they get an opportunity and they will beat you. Does that mean that they are better at jiu-jitsu than you? No. Does that mean your jiu-jitsu fell apart? Yes. So what are you going to do? You need to develop that gear. You need to be that strong. You need to be that fit. And you need to bring that intensity that's unrelenting. Whether you're playing bottom or top, wrestling puts that into people more than anything else, I believe. So our wrestling coach at Absolute MMA back in the day was Talgut Ilsanov. Now, Talgut was possibly the greatest wrestler of his generation from where he's from in Uzbekistan. And he represented Australia at the Olympics, I believe in 2012. Actually, it was more recent than that. But he competed for Uzbekistan and really badly hurt his back in the 2000 games. And then he was competing, at 40 years old and still hanging with all the best guys in the world, almost 20 years after the fact of his prime. He taught us about position. More than anything, Talgut taught us the importance of position on top. And that's all about being able to put yourself to control your opponent. Whether you're using your head, you're using your hand, you're using your hip, you're always doing something to manipulate and control your opponent. And he broke it down in the utmost detail, which when we do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we're like, just do a Kimura, crossface. It's so funny because we have this intellectual kind of high ground, we do Jiu-Jitsu. We are so intellectual. It's BS. We are good at a certain skill set, but when it comes to other factors of grappling, we tend to just let it fall to the side because we're mainly focused on getting the kill, which is the submission. But here's the deal. If you have great wrestling and great positional control, the submission comes easier. So what are you going to do? You're going to do some wrestling. What else are you going to do? You're going to go do some judo. Now, some people are like, but I just want to get better at jiu-jitsu. I'm telling you, my friends, this is the way. For all of you out there who love yourself a bit of the old Disney Plus, you love yourself some Mandalorian, this is the way. Yeah? Do it. Try it. Prove me wrong. Tell me that you going and being a better wrestler will make your jiu-jitsu suck. It won't. You'll get fitter and you'll better understand what makes that part of grappling great, and you'll bring it to jiu-jitsu. In the same way, when you get thrown 100 times and feel your bones just boom, bouncing off the ground, you're going to understand why people who do judo are so freaking hard. They are. They're tough because they've been dropped on the ground 100, 200, 500 times a session for years. What do? We go, we'll just pull guard. That's okay. That's all right. That's why you can do jiu-jitsu your whole entire life. But if you want to get to that black belt, if you want to win that championship, if you want to be a better grappler, you must train the other disciplines. And if you're not sure where to do it, speak to me because I've got a lot of recommendations if you live in Sydney. Now, if you're seeing this on the other side of the planet, wherever you might be, you come across and you're like, who's this guy? This idiot with the beard? What's he talking about? Because you love jiu-jitsu. Trust me, I spent 7, almost 8 years. I didn't practice really any stand-up until I was a brown belt, end of my purple getting onto my brown belt, right? That's only when I started really doing judo and then looking at my wrestling. I wasted 7 years of not developing my game. Don't be me. Don't be the idiot. Save yourself some time because the development I've had from that 7 years to this 7 years, I'll be training jiu-jitsu 14 years pretty soon. I have gotten so much better. And it's helped my students as well because I can pass on to them some other lessons. So if you think about the knock-on effect that you can have by being a better training partner, you can teach those around you to also be better grapplers. Or you can keep your hard-won secrets to yourself and just keep throwing people on the ground real hard. Something like that. No, don't do that. But yeah, position before submission. You've got to get the control. So grip fighting, you've got to know how to do it. And then also it's really important to shine a spotlight on where your deficiencies are. And these arts will do that for you. So thank you for tuning in, my friends. I really appreciate it. I hope you got a little bit of something out of this. Like I said before, if you would like to know a little bit more about more specific gripping techniques, I'm happy to film some videos and pop them up on my Instagram, or we can put them on the Facebook community page just for you guys. And look, really hit that spa, boy. You need to relax, treat yourself. It's Sunday. You gotta just relax the body, or maybe wherever it is, it's Saturday for you, but it's Sunday here in Australia. So What I'd say is this week coming up, Google Judo School, Google a wrestling academy, and see if you can just slot in and do some training. All right, my friends, great work. Get after it. And between now, I'm going to see you next. Stay bulletproof.